And look at Jochen Hahn and Antonio Albacete. The two of them go flying through the right-hand side, then the left-hand side. Jochen Hahn around the outside, and Lucas Hahn, no father and son, come together on the exit of turn one.
And the best thing about this is the fact that it's still a 15-minute sprint race. They're not extended the time of the race. It's still just like, it's going to be, what, 7 laps of Spa-Francorchamps?
Yeah. We get to the real nitty-gritty of motorsport.
Cranston and Smith are side by side for the title in the very final race of the season. So they go back up the hill towards the Schumacher. Nils Kor clips the back at 10. Simon Povey clips the side of Nils Kor. They go over the hill and Povey's around.
Oh my God, that's going to definitely be the thumbnail and hit me in the right direction. Thank you so much.
23 cars.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Chaz Draycott Media, and welcome to another round of the Evolution Sim Racing GT3 Championship here in Season 7. This is the Split A race of the two that go on this evening. There will be Split A and Split B. Split B is being broadcast by the wonderful Joe Glass and Dara Thacker over on the Evolution Sim Racing YouTube channel. For this one, though, for Split A, you've got myself, and I've got the wonderful Ed May alongside me once again. Ed, we've been looking forward to this one, really. It's been quite a mixed calendar, but this is definitely going to be one of the highlights. This GT3 cars in Sebring's wonderful sort of arena of a circuit is great, but let alone the fact we've got wet weather on the horizon as well.
Yeah, absolutely. As if it wasn't going to be tricky enough for the drivers, we've added a little bit of rain into the mix. I'm pretty certain it will be raining all race long as well, so there isn't likely to be any break in the weather. Maybe just a touch towards the end, we shall see. But yeah, we are just into the very end of practice, and I think, Chaz, we have championship standings to go through.
We absolutely do indeed, and as you'll see just here, we have a phenomenal lead for Fraser Smith at the moment. Kevin Pone was involved in a few incidents at Long Beach and actually didn't gain any points on him, and has actually had some exclusions as well from one of the races. I think it was race 2 he was excluded from. There was another driver excluded from that as well, so the stewards not mucking about in this season at all. I mean, I say that like they have in the past. They are not mucking about. It's as simple as that. Yannis Albert got another podium back at Long Beach, and he finds himself with 3 third-place finishes this season, 4th in the championship. Tristan Dinabrega, his teammate, teammate is just in front. Luke Lucchese, his other teammate, is just behind. Luke Van Gortel's going well in 6th place ahead of Ryan Ottens and Matteo Carbonari. Daniel Lee had a bit of a tough time at Long Beach as well. He's P9 in the championship ahead of Kevin Daniels for the DDK by Eagle Speed Academy esports gaming team. They are now just going to be the DDK racing team from this week on. But it's all very close in the elite standings. Plenty can still change there. And Ed, why don't you take it away with the pro standings?
Yeah, thank you very much. And it continues to be a hot streak for Chris Jennings. His run of podiums has continued on, making it 5 now. The Axis Sim Sports driver, nearly 40 points clear ahead of Alex Fretwell, who didn't have the best second race of the night and sees himself just in 2nd. But comfortable gap down to Laurent Dedapper in 3rd. But, wow, what a night he had. 2 race victories to his name there. Lawrence van der Water over there in 4th. Jack Wyborn as well, a couple of podiums for him. Writes himself up into 5th. Bobby Trundley, not so great. He's down to 6th with Victor van Zeist 7th. Matt Hoyland 8th. Jason Hodgson there in 9th. And then rounding out the top 10, Stephen Donnelly.
Yeah, it's very, very close in amongst the pro standings and even in the teams as well. It's mighty, mighty close there. We're looking forward to seeing how the championship pays off for either RDSA or Quartermass, but just 1 point separates the two of them at the moment. It's pretty remarkable how close it is there. You've then got Axis Sim Sports and the RLH team in 4th, and then the LS Racing team after a fantastic run last time out at the wonderful Long Beach. They are right up there in the fight. But as we've seen, really, really close throughout the teams, really, really close throughout the drivers as well. And we're going to be getting ready now for qualifying here at the fantastic Sebring. And we're going to be looking at championship leader Fraser Smith. He's going to give us an idea here, Ed, of just how wet it is on this circuit at the moment. There's still a little bit of rain coming down, but you can see there's potential clear skies on the horizon. Just don't know how much of that we're going to see before the end of tonight.
Yeah, we will have to keep an eye on Fraser Smith over the course of the night because he has looked so strong and dominant, hasn't he, in the wet. He was, I think, class of the field, it's fair to say. Last time we had some wet weather running at Virginia International Raceway. And, well, you can already tell he's trying out the different line. Is he braking on the inside to try and avoid all of the rubber that had been laid down earlier on? Again, the Porsche is also a car that tends to be very sort of adept, doesn't it, in these wet weather conditions. When the grip is not there, it seems to be able just to find that bit of traction that the other cars can't. Yeah,
it's a car that's very reliable in all conditions. You know, it's a great all-rounder. Matt Hoyland says, hello, this is horrendous. That's all for now. Matt Hoyland had a great night in the SRM Club Racing Fest, the Oris Analytics Club Racing Fest by SRM the other night, finishing 2nd outright on the evening. I'm just trying to have a quick look. Where on earth is... here he is. Couldn't find Bobby Trundley for a minute there. Bobby right up there, obviously, in the pro standings. He's going to be hoping to take another victory here tonight. He's had a fantastic run of form recently, but you know what? His championship isn't completely done yet. We've only just moved into the second half of the season, really. This being the 6th round of the championship. We have Circuit of the Americas coming next up. Then Imola, Mugello, and finishing the season at Bathurst. Mugello looks to be the only other time where we're going to be having any form of mixed weather, actually, Ed. It's going to be dry for the rest of the season, so these guys will be pretty pleased, I imagine, to see the back of the wet weather after this.
Yeah, it does seem like as well tonight is going to be a sort of wet to dry race. The rain is currently sort of midway through a big band of it, but maybe actually by the end of qualifying it might be more dry and the track will continually be getting sort of grippier and grippier as the session progresses. So it's all about the drivers maybe having to manage the crossover from wet to dry rather than dry to wet, which we've already seen earlier this season, didn't we, at, I believe, Zolder, wasn't it, where it was initially a dry race that became a wet one halfway through.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's worse when it goes that way because the circuit starts to lose grip, so you have to be more and more cautious every single lap. You know, you do tend to just feel that the car gets away from you time and time again, whereas when it's going from wet to dry, the grip comes to you, so you gain more confidence in the car. It's a very interesting way for it to work, but yeah, as a driver you have to be really, really careful on it, and obviously make sure that you don't overdo it, because it's very, very easy to do that. And a lot of these drivers I know will certainly, like I say, be happy to see the back of the wet weather. So at the moment, we've not got any times on the board yet, because all these drivers are just getting used to it and getting their first times out there. Matthew Croft and the privateer machine hoping to keep it clean. Matteo Carbonari very stylishly slides into shot as he now makes his way around towards the end of the lap. This next corner, little right-hander here, Ed. Nightmarish little corner, isn't it? It's a really late apex. There's a big old curb on the inside, but then also a huge dip in that gravel on the left as well, where so many cars go off.
Yeah, it's difficult both in the dry, but in the wet it's even worse, because it's a corner where you can only really take one line, and that line is incredibly slippy because of obviously the wet rubber that's everywhere. Again, this right-hander, you can see Carbonari just struggling with the turn-in, just trying to get this big, heavy Mercedes to turn when there's no real traction on the road is pretty horrific. As well, the final corner, actually, when you're coming out onto that back straight, is going to be a nightmare for the drivers, because you want to run out and use all of that curb, but the curb is going to be so treacherous, just absolutely caked in water.
Yeah, and it's going to be so bumpy out there as well, so it's not really going to settle in one solid racing line. There's going to be a lot of puddles and splashy areas for them to wiggle through, as sideways goes Alexander Dolby. Very, very sideways. The car you can see breaking away from him here. Soper goes fastest. Now, we saw an interesting one with Will Soper, didn't we, at Long Beach? He had that incident with the lead Mustang towards the end of the second race. It was Chaz Draycott who'd led all of the race, done such a brilliant job, and then Will just misjudged his braking. He did self-report the incident though, so fair play to Will. Great sportsmanship from him, and he got some licence points for that, but I think he got to keep the win. I think it was more that they just had a licence point system rather than a penalty that affected his results. It's not often that they will affect the results. They'll just sort of exclude them from one race here or there. Chris Jennings second fastest in the pro class right now. Victor van Zeist is third. Laurens van der Wouter is fourth. And if we look at the overall standings, you can see a number of those pro drivers, well, they're duking it out, aren't they, with some of these elite drivers?
Yeah, they're right up there mixing with the best of them. Bobby Chunley currently the highest of the bunch for Quartermaster Motorsports. Ryan Ottens currently in the elite class. We're on board with him now in the Corvette. Look at how much he's having to fight the car. A massive slide, but he's able to recover it. And doesn't look like he loses too much time there, because the momentum carries him through the corner. And he wasn't really at a point where you're trying to put the power down. So that slide isn't going to be the worst for him. It's much harder. Oh, you can see again twitching as he goes under brakes, hunting, trying to search for any grip possible. Careful when you put the power down, because again, so slick with rubber and standing water. At the moment though, with 8.5 minutes to go, it's currently Will Soper for Conehead Racing leading the way.
Yeah, Will taking the usual spot that is often occupied by his teammate Fraser Smith. Fraser currently in third position. Here's Luke Lucchese, multiple champion of the Evolution Sim Racing GT3 Championship. A big thank you as well to said championship organisers as well. Thanks particularly to James Bostock for having us on and being so great to work with as well. So accommodating, so friendly. Thanks also to Kame, GP2 Group and Keenan Eco Energy, the three championship sponsors. You'll see them listed in the top right of your screen. They'll be making their way through bit by bit, as Yanis Albert has had a drama and been off the circuit. That's the end of his qualifying session by the look of it. I'm not sure if he'll go back out. He's currently sat in the pit lane. He's only done one lap though, so I imagine he might reset the car. Here's another driver that'll be hoping for a bit more better luck in the wet weather this time, because at Virginia last time Daniel Lee had an absolute nightmare, so much so he made a reel for it for his socials.
You can see, look how close he gets to the wall there on the exit. Danny Lee really pushing it hard. Luke Van Gortel jumping all the way up into fourth. That's a really lovely lap from him. Getting up onto the second row. Oh, it does not look comfortable out there in that Mustang, though.
No, absolutely not. He's certainly having to work hard, isn't he, to keep it pointing in the right direction. So many puddles here and there as well. Look at that. Even on what is normally the racing line, there's just so much standing water. And you have to cross a lot of that standing water as well to get from one end of the circuit to the other, one side of it to the other. It's so treacherous. Even that puddle just dragged the car in that slight bit. They've got to really keep an eye out on stuff like that.
Really do. It's something that, again, in qualifying it isn't so bad, but when you're in a race with so many cars around you, it becomes all the harder. I'll still get taken aback by the sound of this thing. You can hear it as well, just having to be so careful on the throttle, the engine stuttering and rising and falling as he's just, again, searching for the point where the wheels aren't going to be spinning and he can get the traction. Another slide as he tries to turn it through, no grip once more. Look at the standing water on the inside of these corners, which is where you want to be in a normal situation, but through there, again, just any standing water that you hit in these cars on iRacing, as it would do in real life, just completely cuts any grip you've got.
Yeah, it's just suddenly all absolutely gone, isn't it? His teammate Dean Powell is pushing on as well. There's a number of lap times on the board for both of them, but yeah, nothing that is completely breaking the timing screens at the moment. John Breitenbach hasn't found anywhere to hide just yet. He's pushing on, hoping to get a little bit more out of this session. Looks a little bit bright at this point, though. The sun's shining slightly and reflecting off the car. We've got some sharp shadows. Maybe it'll dry up as the race goes on. It'll be very interesting to see if it does. Here's Tristan Dinabrega in the Acura. Can't really see much out of the window, to be honest with you. It's just very, very gloomy and flat, isn't it, out there?
Yeah, it's so horrendous in terms of the weather. It will obviously be getting better, but the drivers are really suffering the worst of it in this qualifying session. Just, it's not stopping for Dinabrega at all, is it?
No.
It's just not able to get it to stop, and this is not what we're used to seeing from Tristan, is it? Down all the way in 12th in his class, currently 19th overall. This is not a familiar sight for Tristan Dinabrega. He's still got a little bit of time to go, though, in this qualifying session, doesn't he, Chaz? He's got another couple of laps he could potentially set. Currently on his second at this moment in time. He might be able to get around to do one more after this one, but as you can see with the time left in the session, he won't be able to do all 4 laps that he's able.
No, absolutely not. Just got to keep it very, very tidy. And the thing is as well, in the high speed parts of the circuit, the back end of a lot of these GT3 cars will break away from you very slowly. It doesn't give you any warning, but it just gradually gets away. Look at how many puddles there are on the way into this section of the circuit in particular. It's very flat around here, so there's not really anywhere for it to drain either. The only way that the water's going to disappear is by just simply the mass amount of cars that will drive over it and warm it up. But there's some breaks in the cloud, just not a lot of them. Still a lot of rain coming down at this stage. These guys will just be praying for a bit of a break in it. But again, one of the exciting things that we see about wet weather racing, Ed, is the fact that we get so many drivers in there that surprise us, that are really good in the wet, that we don't see as much pace from in the dry. It's a real level playing field when we go racing in the rain, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's, I think, one of the best things about it. It really does also allow some of these pro drivers to mix it with the elites and see exactly what they can do. Again, I love this livery from Sim Racing Team Lowlands. Robert Backer here in a wonderful Mercedes. That, again, that little sort of almost chromatic effect, isn't it, on the logo on the side. I still have no idea how they've done it, Chaz. I don't know if you've been able to investigate and find it out. It looks amazing.
I really don't know. I think they might have painted a rainbowy effect on it and then obviously made it metallic, so it doesn't look like it's just coloured in like a rainbow a lot of the time. But obviously with the nature of it, when it does shine, it highlights the colours more, if that makes sense. So it doesn't look like it's in colour when it's flat like that, and then when it goes past it shows you the colours. But because I'm just trying to figure out, because the right hand side of the S looks green, so I'm thinking that it is, I don't know. I'm going to have to ask whoever's painted that car, because it's so cool. I think that is what they've done. I don't know. Still, I think it looks mega. We look back at Jason Hodgson for Big Fast Racing. He's just coming around the final corner now. Alexander Dolby crosses the line as well. He's currently 14th in class, 3 seconds off pole. He won't be too pleased with that one. And Hodgson does not improve. Luke Lucchese is on a lap at the moment, though. Can he make anything of this one, though, Ed, in these conditions? We've seen Luke thrive in weather like this before, but it looks like the Porsche is not playing ball.
No, not at least for Lucchese. It's playing ball for quite a few other drivers. It is essentially a top 7 lockout, isn't it, of all drivers in the Porsche. There's only one car in the top 10 that isn't a Porsche, and that is Ryan Otten's in the Corvette. So it definitely appears to be the car to drive. Yanis Albert, the RDSA Esports Acura, the next highest driver not in the Porsche. He's in 11th place. It's great to have the mixture of the pro drivers up there, isn't it? The likes of Bobby Trundley, Victor Van Zyl, Stephen Donnelly, all inside the top 10 overall. Means that they've got to worry about some very fast drivers around them, while also having to worry about their own class. Let's not forget, drivers are scored based on where they finish in class, not overall. So Bobby could afford to maybe not race as hard with the likes of Will Soper and Fraser Smith, but it's not every day you find yourself on the front row of a grid to potentially fight for an overall race victory if you're in the pro class.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. You've just got to take every opportunity that you can get, and a lot of the time, the weather like this really does give other drivers an opportunity. Luke Lucchese not able to make it work. John Breitenbach, like I say, not hiding yet, is he? Just see how he does on his way into this final corner here. Very twitchy, running really wide to try and scoop it back in.
There we go, on the power, John Breitenbach. Leaving a little bit of space out to the wall, but the clock ticks over and he's not able to set the lap time. Dear me. That's why we haven't got any of the Breitenbach hide and seek either. Just didn't have time to get round.
I completely forgot about that, you know. I'm not going to lie. I completely forgot about how quickly it was going to end like that. Wow. Okay. Here's the grid then. Will Soper and Bobby Trundley on the front row. Will Soper in the elite class, Bobby Trundley in the pro class. Fantastic to see that. Great effort by Bobby. Fraser Smith in 3rd position ahead of Luke Van Gortel. Chris Jennings in the pro class is on row 3 with Luke Lucchese alongside him. Then we have John Breitenbach and Ryan Ottens. Victor Van Zyl and Stephen Donnelly are 9th and 10th ahead of Yanis Albert and Luke King. We then have Daniel Lee and Kevin Daniels, Jason Hodgson and Alex Fretwell, Tristan Dinnebrega in 17th with Laurens van der Wouter in 18th. Thomas Pugh is 19th alongside Matteo Carbonari in the Mercedes. Then it's Glenn Andre Christensen in the Ferrari. Andrew Fairley down there in 22nd place. He's with Dean Powell, 23rd. Matthew Croft, relative newcomer to the series, starts in 24th. Then we have Jack Wyborn and Malcolm Coates together on the 13th row of the grid. Matt Hoyland is next up with Nick Stubber. I've been told it's Stubber, not Nick Stubb. So we apologise, Nick. But yeah, we've now going to get that one right. So it's Nick Stubber, Kaz Brinkhausen and Chris Versteinen right together on the 15th row of the grid. Then it's Alexander Dolby and Laurens de Dapper. Eric Verlet is 33rd. Robert Bakker 34th ahead of Marcel Breitenbach. And then Martin Kenyon completes the 36-car field for this single race this evening, Ed. And you can see, look, clear skies ahead. Now, the next question is going to be, which way is that wind going?
Yeah, the wind is blowing the rain away from the circuit by the looks of things. It seems to be slowly but surely coming from the sort of eastern side of the circuit, I think. So basically, as we're coming in towards turn 1, the sort of wind is blowing in the driver's face as they head in towards the first corner.
Yeah, this should be all golden, but we'll have to wait and see. As you can see, wipers aplenty, but 2 Conehead cars right at the front of the pack. I think one of the most telling things here is the number of Porsches at the front of the field. The whole top 6 cars in this race are the Porsche 911 GT3 R992s, and that just again tells you how reliable a platform this machine is in conditions like this, doesn't it, Ed? It's such a go-to race car.
It is. There's a reason why it is so popular both in real world and in virtual motorsports. It's so versatile in pretty much any scenario. The platform that Porsche have been able to develop over the years, it's evolution upon evolution of the same concept, and I think that's why it's seemingly getting better and better, from strength to strength. every single year. So not forget, Porsche 911s have been sort of part of GT3 racing ever since, well, the very inception of the category, wasn't it, Chaz? So it's basically just evolving on that very same format, and again, it works out for them brilliantly.
Yeah, one of the very first homologated GT3 cars. The first ever homologated GT3 car was the Maserati Gran Turismo as a GT3, and I don't ever remember seeing one in my life, but it was the first car to get homologation into GT3 regulations, which is pretty remarkable. But like I say, never seen one. What a beautiful grid we've got here, though, with a good mix of cars this season. Once again, it has to be said, it's mainly Porsches near the front, but I mean, if you look further down the order, we've got Ferrari, Mercedes, Lamborghini, McLaren, Acura, Chevrolet, BMW, all of them basically, all the way down there. And it's just a shame that that tends to be more towards the towards the tail end of the order, let's say.
Yeah, at least for the moment. Of course, iRacing may do some tweaks and changes to balance out the sort of, at least in terms of on fixed setups, the car's performance in wet weather conditions. I think some of the drivers have been saying that it's just the nature of the fixed setup that they're running as to why the Porsche handles the rain better than the others. If it was more of a open setup affair, it might change things just a touch. For now, we have Danny Lee, who are going to be on board with for now as the drivers get started for the warm-up lap. This does help out every single driver, actually, this longer lap behind the safety car, purely because it's meaning the rain has longer time to hopefully get out of the way.
Yeah, it's better time for it to sod off, in fairness. I'm intrigued by Luke Van Gortel here. Luke will be starting right near the front of the pack once again. We've seen him qualify high up in previous rounds. It's just not come to fruition in the last couple for him. Oh, I say that, let me just have a look. Yeah, I've not got him on any podiums in like the last 4 meetings, so he's not been converting them, despite being right near the sharp end. Apologies if I sound weird. I seem to have some trapped wind or something. I've got a burp coming somewhere, but it's just, it's really hurting my chest, and I don't want to throw up on my desk. So, still, hopefully this start isn't enough to make somebody want to throw up, because this could get pretty messy pretty quickly here, Ed. I'm hoping that we see the usual sort of exercising of caution by drivers that we've seen a few times before.
Yes, let's hope so. The rain has actually now vacated out of the way of at least half of the circuit. I can see on the weather radar, Chaz, in towards turn 1. There shouldn't be any rain falling, but it's just through the tail end of sunset where we're starting to get some raindrops, so it could quickly turn into a dry race. But at the front of the field, they're about to get underway.
They absolutely are. Frame rate beware. It's Will Soper on the left-hand side of the grid alongside Bobby Trundley. Elite versus Pro. The green flag waves, and round number 6 of the Evolution Sim Racing GT3 Championship gets underway in Season 7, and Fraser Smith is immediately down the inside of Bobby Trundley and getting the job done. He goes through into second position. Pretty sure he's going to make that one stick from there. We'll keep our eye on everybody further down. Are they all going to behave themselves? God, there's a lot of spray through there. But you know what? Hats off to them all. It seems like they've done a great job in the first corner. Now let's just get through this next section, shall we? Because this is going to be tippy-toe time.
Yeah, look how careful everyone is having
Car
to
off.
be.
It's Danny Lee. Has to be Danny Lee, doesn't it? Already off the circuit, rejoins though and gets back underway. Let's go back to the front because my frame rate can't hack it. Fraser Smith, second place with his teammate right in front of him. That looked like Luke Lucchese there trying to move on Chris Jennings around the outside. Didn't really work for him. Glenn Andre Christensen has come to a stop as Luke Lucchese runs into the back of Chris Jennings, strangely.
Very strange, isn't it, Luke Lucchese? He was just, I think, misjudging the attraction he would have relative to Chris. Let's not forget the difference in, well, at least in the classification between the two drivers. Luke Lucchese classed as elite, Chris Jennings classed as pro. For now, it is Bobby Trundley leading the way in the pro class. Also leads the race outright as well as the elite class. Luke Lucchese is going to fancy a little run here on Chris Jennings, who gets a little bit unhappy, doesn't he? The rear end of his Porsche not quite having the same level of traction. All the way around the outside, it's a little bit grippier over there, and that proves to be the case for Luke Lucchese, who makes that move nice and cleanly. This was earlier on. This is Jack Wyborn. Keep an eye out for him. He gets sort of just stuck in the midst of everyone as they get in contact between himself and Danny Lee, just about on the apex. But to be fair, Danny's getting pushed up the backside. There's nothing he can really do to slow it down.
That was Dean Powell, actually, Danny's teammate, that was right in the thick of all of that. But yeah, he couldn't get out of it, really. He sort of had a lot of pressure from behind, put his nose down the inside to almost, it looked like, avoid everyone else. And then, yeah, ended up pushing the other car off the circuit, unfortunately. Jack Wyborn won't be too happy with that, but I think if he watches that one back, he'll see that it wasn't all really down to Dean in that one. On board with Yannis Albert, all over the place in this NSX, wiggling around like mad. Matteo Carbonari is off the road at the final corner, it seems. He's back onto the track on the inside of the corner exit. Very strange place to end up. We'll go back to Yannis Albert, though, in the NSX. He's trying to chase down Ryan Ottens right now. Two of the newest cars to come to iRacing, two American mid-engined spiky machines, both making very touring car-esque noises, but quite like the Corvette from here. It looks very interesting to see. It's just very boxy and square. Yannis, though, having to have his wits about him here, because it's not only the fact that you've got such treacherous weather conditions to fight against, but also the fact that these cars have such heightened strengths and weaknesses, don't they, Ed?
Yeah, it becomes all the more apparent when you see them side by side racing one another, but the real strength of the Porsche is just its traction, isn't it? Getting it stopped onto the brakes, but also the traction out of corners, which is something that's so crucial in the wet. And that's why it's just by far the class of the field at the moment. Things like the cars that we're currently on board with the Honda NSX and the Chevrolet Corvette, have got a good sort of bit of snappy turning about them, aren't they? Their front ends are always quite pointy, similar to actually the Lamborghini. Very sort of sensitive, I think, in terms of moments, as we see just exactly that with Ryan Ottens struggling to put the power down as he goes through the corner, and the same actually as we were on board with Yannis Albert. You can see him having to saw at the wheel just on corner exit. But this is a really horrific place to be, isn't it? All of the spray getting kicked up in Yannis's face makes it hard to pick your moments. You can really only see the brake lights of the car ahead, and you need to almost rely on them to figure out where exactly the corners are going to be.
Matthew Croft has unfortunately had a drama here. He's in the BMW on the outside. Oh, Fretwell late on the brakes and runs into the back of him in the McLaren. Alex could have waited and let him go, but to be honest, he would have been giving up way too much time there. I don't think anybody else would have been expected to wait that long to give a position back. Kevin Daniels here in the newly named DDK Racing team. Looking back, well, I was going to say looking back at Jason Hodgson, he's there somewhere. And Thomas Pugh in the Lamborghini is in there, Laurens van der Wouter. There's a big mix. If I show you the overall standings, you'll see huge mix of elite and pro drivers, almost completely alternating throughout the order. Big old switcheroo going on between all those guys. Wow, Jason Hodgson cuts very closely back across the front of Pugh's Lamborghini, finds himself down the inside of Kevin Daniels. No remorse here from Hodgson. He's taking on these elite drivers by storm as well.
Yeah, he's really going on nicely. Down through the field, who some of the biggest movers are. Alexander Drulli, actually, for LS Racing, up 9 places. Kaz Brinkhuizen up 8. He's having a lovely time as Kaz in the Ford Mustang. Going on board with him now.
You can tell, can't you?
Just a sonic wall, isn't it? Just blasting into your eardrums.
Right behind him, Alexander Dulby in the Lamborghini as well, looking a little bit almost out of shape there, but I just think that's naturally the Lamborghini, isn't it? Behind there's even more kicking off. That's Matthew Croft having to go at Robert Backer this time. He wants a place back now. He's trying to gain whatever he can. Martin Kenyon in the Lamborghini. I'm not jealous of Martin trying to drive that thing in the wet, because flipping heck, what a nightmare.
Absolutely not. You can already tell Martin Kenyon is not really comfortable in these wet conditions, especially in the Lamborghini. It's just so twitchy in, well, the best of conditions, isn't it? But you can actually see now, from this camera angle at least, the lack of rainfall is all the more apparent, and I think we are starting to see a bit of a dry line forming, aren't we, Chaz?
Yeah, definitely. There's a slightly lighter grey part of the circuit in some of the pinch points of the track. In certain corners, you can definitely tell where the circuit will begin to dry out, but I mean, still, where some of the puddles are, there's a huge wall of spray. Will Soper, you know, he's just disappearing. He's absolutely disappearing. He's 2.2 seconds ahead of Fraser Smith at the minute. He's making that Porsche work for him tonight. He's doing a brilliant job as, oh no, Nick Stubber has had a drama and Daniel Lee has been involved as well. Danny is not having any good luck at all in these wet weather races. What has happened here?
Yeah, let's just have a look and see. He's up the inside. And is it already going around on him, or is it just coming together on the exit? It's on the exit, and Danny Lee, I think he's maybe expecting a little bit more space potentially being afforded on the inside from Nick, but
I don't know. I mean,
I think with Nick, to his credit, you're not going to be using all of that runoff on the exit just because of how slippery it is.
No, true. I think from the other angle, it looked a bit more incriminating against Nick for a second, but I don't think Danny had enough room on the outside. Obviously, he didn't want to put too much steering lock on either and then suddenly go flying off the road. Eric Verlet has just been back off and back on again. So the Mustang's definitely not the car to be in the wet, as Tristan de Brega is now finding out the NSX is no party piece either. He's having a bit of a struggle. He's got Victor Van Zeist behind him. He's got a whole host of cars in there with him. Thomas Pugh, Jason Hodgson, Lawrence van der Wouter in there. Bobby Trundley still running third place overall at present as well, Ed. And this Quartermass machine, I mean, it's hard to miss anyway with a very striking livery on it, but it's going well, isn't it? He's not been dropping. He's not been dropped, I should say, by Fraser Smith.
No, he's really having a great job just keeping up there with them, and we know that Fraser Smith is one of the best drivers actually in this wet weather condition. We saw him, well, at Virginia International Raceway a couple of race meetings ago. He's by far the fastest driver in the wet, but at the moment, that seems to be the honour bestowed to Will Soper, who's by far a quicker driver. On that last lap, actually, Will managed to pull out 0.3 of a second on his teammate, and by extension, the rest of the field to the lead of the race. Luke Van Gortel got a couple of Porsches just up in front of him. Won't gain anything necessarily by overtaking Bobby Trundley, but it's about the whole picture of the race, isn't it, in getting this move made, because that will see him a lot closer to potentially a second or maybe even an overall race victory. His pace is definitely there with, on his last lap at least, 1 minute 14. On that last lap actually, 1 minute 14.75. He's not far off the pace of Will Soper, about 10th quicker than Fraser Smith, but that sort of trio was back from Will Soper, all lapping at roughly the same pace. Chris Jennings, meanwhile, the second driver in the Pro class, in the midst of a fight. This is Ryan Otton's trying to find his way through up the inside of the Axis Sim Sports driver. Makes the move. I don't think Chris is necessarily fighting too hard because he's got a little bit of a buffer between himself and the next driver in his class, Stephen Donnelly. But as I say that, Yanis Albert has made the move as well on Chris. And now there's just Luke King separating himself and Stephen Donnelly, the driver third in the Pro class. So we can't necessarily afford to shed too much in the way of time and positions, because sooner or later Stephen's going to start breathing down his neck. In fact, you can just see him now. Yeah,
and to be fair, with that bright green livery chasing him down as well, it's hard to miss in your rearview mirror, isn't it? So Donnelly definitely will hope to put the pressure on. Eric Verlet has had some big dramas, so too has Matthew Croft and Martin Kenyon as well. This is what's happened to Eric Verlet, all of these guys together. Eric late on the brakes. Oh, he's down the inside. He's made contact with Martin Kenyon. He's gone sideways. And then what on earth has happened with Matthew Croft after this? Sad to say that Dean Powell has also had an issue. Oh, is Martin going to have some sort of drama getting back on here? And then Croft's going to get involved? I don't know. Because both of these guys, Matthew Croft and Martin Kenyon, both came to a stop. This is just a few corners later. Oh, Matthew's late on the brakes. Oh, and he's just kissed the back of the Lamborghini, and the two of them pirouette in wonderful synchronicity. Matthew allows the car to hit the wall. He's got to be really careful with the rejoin. Matteo Carbonari and Dean Powell both went off the road as well. I think maybe this is going to be something that's linked together. Dean seems like he's got damage on that front left. It's going. It's going. Oh, it looks like it wants to go. Oh my God, it's so sideways. Just floating sideways everywhere. Let's have a quick look at where he went off. Oh, he's had contact with Carbonari. I think Matteo, is he letting him go? Oh, he's got to wait to get back on the track. That's the painful bit, isn't it? It's waiting to get back on. I think at that point Carbonari's driven off, and
Yeah.
I don't think you can really shake your fist at him too much for that one, because I think anybody else, like we saw earlier, anyone else would have driven on as well. He's shown that he wanted to stop and try and give a place back, but at the end of the day, you can't completely destroy your own race in the benefit of sportsmanship.
Yeah, it was. You could see the intent was there, but unfortunately, just wasn't able to execute it by nature of how long Danny Lee had to. It was Danny Lee actually had to just wait there and allow pretty much essentially the whole world to go by, isn't it? You're stuck on the inside. There's no room to really reverse because you've got the wall, and you can't really push forward because you've got, well, a wall of cars moving past in front of you. So you are essentially just stuck. Kevin Daniels under pressure from Thomas Pugh. Lamborghini sounds really wonderful, doesn't it? On board now. Put that power down again. The same engine in the Audi, which unfortunately we don't have any Audis here tonight.
I was trying to figure out which one it was that we didn't have with us this evening, and it is the Audi R8, isn't it? Missing the Audi because we've got. Oh no, we've got another car off. Actually, is what we've got, and it's the only Ferrari. Glenn Andre Christensen in the Chapter X machine off the road. So we've got Ferrari, Ford, Lamborghini, BMW, Corvette, Mercedes, McLaren, Acura, Porsche. Yeah, so we've got 9 manufacturers of the 10 available on iRacing. Malcolm Coates just reminding us there's another Corvette or 2 in the field. Marcel Breitenbach also in the Corvette. Not seen much of him yet this evening. Daniel Lee is the car behind him as he kicks up the spray. But to be honest, you're absolutely right, Ed. The only reason right now for them to have wipers on is the spray coming off the cars in front of them at this stage.
Yeah, that's basically what we're coming to the conclusion of. But no real dry line formed yet, is there, Chaz? You can still see the spray getting kicked up. It's not as extreme as it was at the beginning of the race. And look at that clear daylight up in front now. Bright enough for a blimp to be up in the air as well, so it must be forecasted to have a nice, well, fairly dry remainder of the race. I'm just going to go on to the weather radar to confirm that yes, it will be dry from now until the end of the race, even if the track is still going to be wet for a while to come. But we've got plenty of cars going out on circuit, full chat to help displace some of that standing water.
Right now, Stephen Donnelly is up into second place ahead of Chris Jennings as well, and Chris is not getting any respite in any of this because he's got Tristan Dinabrega putting him under pressure as well, and that'll be frustrating because it's not even for a class position, it's for an overall position as well, so it's not going to even matter really for Chris. It means that physically he's just going to have another car between himself and Stephen Donnelly if Tristan gets on through. Hats off to Will Soper though. You know what, after that second race at Long Beach, he would have had his head in his hands and he would have been not... I mean, he said it was a very sour victory with the fact that, you know, he won that race, but what changed the lead was the incident where he was late on the brakes, and it was a complete human error. He admitted it himself, self-reported the incident. He's shone back from that in just incredible form here at Sebring so far. I don't want to get too ahead of myself because we're only 15 minutes into the race. There's still pit stops and strategies to think about. There's definitely a dry line on that section of the circuit, but it's not dry, it's just drier than the wettest bit, I think is the best way to put it.
I think it's sort of damp, isn't it? It's sort of more of a damp, not quite a wet line or a dry line. It's sort of in the intermediate, and I'm not going to use the word beginning with M that some people dislike. I know I'm fine with it, but certain people cannot stand it.
What, moist?
Yes, that one.
If you've just shivered, unlucky. Tristan Dinabrega trying to make his way past Chris Jennings. And Chris will not be pleased with this at all. Not only has he lost second place in class, but now he's also lost an overall position in the race and had another car go between himself and Stephen Donnelly. But then again, you know, Stephen Donnelly is not a driver to be sniffed at. Stephen has been rapid in many a season in the Evolution Sim Racing GT3 Championship, and he continues to be as well one of the finest in his class. Hats off to Bobby Trundley though. He's in the thick of it though. He's got 3 cars very closely around him, but they're all in the elite class, so he's not really got to worry about them. Luke and Luke are having a look at one another, staying very close together, but to be fair, actually, they're not really battling with Bobby Trundley, and he looks like he wants to line something up to potentially have a go at Fraser Smith.
It's potentially exciting, isn't it, Chaz, to see a little battle from Bobby Trundley. He's got confidence that the pace is there with him. He's lapping on par with our race leader, Will Soper. So why not try and go for the move? He's looking very comfortable at the moment in these wet weather conditions. Fraser Smith, different line taken to Bobby Trundley, and it doesn't seem to be the quicker one. Struggling out there for grip, actually.
Wow, Bobby's going for it.
Find where he's going, and he's finding himself up the inside. Just can't put the power down, and Fraser Smith is able to keep it going. And now Luke Van Gortel. Great advantageous move, wasn't it? Really opportunistic. Just saw that Bobby Trundley was struggling on the exit, was held so tight by Fraser Smith, not able to put the power down, and that allowed him just to carve his way around the outside. Now Luke Lucchese, is he going to fancy swooping in and taking that 4th place overall from Bobby Trundley? Let's not forget still, even though Bobby Trundley's lost a couple of positions, he's still going to be scoring maximum points tonight ahead of Stephen Donnelly, who's all the way down in 10th.
Well, he's doing a great job at the moment, is Bobby. He just doesn't need to risk anything and overdo it, does he, at this stage of the race? There's still 42 minutes left to go here at Sebring in round number 6 of the Evolution Sim Racing GT3 Championship. The battle is on for 2nd position, though. Now, this is for class position between Luke Van Gortel and Fraser Smith. This will mean championship points. Fraser's doing everything right at the minute, though, because his main championship rival, Kevin Poon, is not here this evening. Let's not forget to point that out. I did have it in the back of my mind earlier, but yeah, Kevin not here for this evening's race. So as long as Fraser finishes, he's going to be gaining championship points over his main rival. Looking a bit further back, Kevin Daniels and Thomas Pugh side by side. The Lamborghini against the Porsche. Around the outside goes Thomas. Is he going to make that stick? No, he's not. Whoa, Daniels has a big old tank slapper. Pugh goes back to the inside line. He's later on the brakes. He's got his nose down there. Can he get it stopped, though? Oh, he's kissed the side of the Porsche. They both just get away with that there, Ed. It's not easy to get away with that in the wet, but wow, they did all right, I'd say.
Yeah, they managed to get through it just about, but it's only going to be getting better for the drivers now, isn't it? You can really see the sun starting to shine. Jason Hodgson with a bit of spray to contend with, but for now, it'll maybe be the last we'll see of the spray. As I think we get to the halfway point, the crossover may start to come, which will really help out these drivers for making their one pit stop of the race. Wonder though, who's going to be the first driver to make the gamble and go on to the dry tyre?
Yeah, I was going to say the tyre choices here. Not sure. Apparently Kevin Poon is not coming back, unfortunately, to the series, which is a huge shame. I hope that's not in relation to any of the incidents he's had, because I mean, from what I've seen, that would stink of throwing toys out the pram. But obviously each to their own and how they perceive it. Laurens de Dapper has stopped. Very odd. And Dean Powell has had an accident and gone off the circuit. Oh, it's just gone on him there on the downshift. And around he goes, unfortunately. God, that's a big old car to spin, isn't it? It took a long time to rotate. Here's two battling partners that we've seen before. Yannis Albert and Ryan Otten side by side into Sunset Bend. With Luke King in there as well. God, it's like going back to season 4.
Here we go. It's a great little battle, isn't it? Oh, Luke King, look at how much he's having to soar at the wheel there, nearly into the wall. Wow. Oh my word, that was really scary from Luke King. He held on just by the skin of his teeth, but you won't want to do that too many more times. New race overalls, please, as he's now chasing down Ryan Ottens and Yannis Albert. Two cars in the, well, top 13 that are not behind the wheel of a Porsche. I wonder as well if this might actually work out in the favour of the likes of Yannis Albert and Ryan Ottens. What is it the track is drying, because they certainly seem to be finding the pace again.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it, how it just varies one way then the other for some of these drivers. And I mean, look at Will Soper. He's not really changed in terms of his pace. He's just been rapid all the way through this and leading the race. And well, the other drivers, I mean, Fraser was on it at the start. I think he's just settled in a little bit here, is Fraser. He knows at this round tonight he doesn't have to push too hard. He doesn't have to overly stress himself. The spray is also reducing. He knows the grip's going to come to him soon, and I mean, we've seen his usual consistent pace in the dry. So I reckon now that he's going to be just feeling a bit calm, maybe. Considering it's wet as well, he'll be feeling calm.
You will be for now. I think that's the case, though. You won't be calm for too long, because all it takes is you get into the rhythm, don't you? You feel like you're getting to grips with the circuit, it's drying out, it's getting faster, and then all of a sudden you make one little misjudgment, you get into a little bit of a circuit of a corner that's just wetter than you're anticipating, and, well, something like that could happen as Fraser Smith nearly gets turned around, actually, by Luke Lucchese. Bobby Trundley's now ahead, back up into 4th place. Let's have a look from his point of view. And on board with Luke Lucchese, it just seems like, he actually has a snap on the exit of the corner, which is why he's not able to put the power down, which catches out Luke Lucchese. To be fair to Luke, there isn't really any time he has to react.
No.
And now it's Bobby Trundley who's able to take advantage. All of this, meanwhile, is really helping out Luke Van Gort, who's now got 2.5 seconds clear from 3rd place, attempting to chase down Will Sober. Actually, on that last lap, it was 6/10 in the favour, or actually no, half a second isn't in the favour of Luke Van Gortel in his pursuit of our race leader Will Soper. So at the moment, Luke's really on a charge.
Yeah, Luke's absolutely flying in this Porsche. I love this livery as well. Really cool looking machine, the MJK Sim Racing Porsche. And right now, he's making up for what I was saying earlier, actually, with the fact that, you know, he's converted. He's not converted, that's the point. He's had some great qualifying sessions, just not converted them. I think a lot of these guys are hoping for a bit more moisture on the tyres to make it past the halfway point of the race. Lawrence de Dapper has popped into the YouTube chat and has explained that he's making mistakes and falling asleep. He's having wake-up snaps and losing concentration, so he's not risking anyone else's race. Fair play to you, Lawrence. Fair play. It's very selfless of you, and we hope you manage to get some good kit, mate. We've actually got drivers now, Ed, coming out on different tyres. I'm going to whack the tyre compounds up on the left-hand side of your screen. Alex Fretwell and Alexander Dolby are coming out on dry tyres. I think that is way early. But are they just trying to be ahead of the curve?
Far too early, and I think Alex has immediately found that to be the case, as you can how careful that would be on the power. We'll see, though, won't we, based on the lap times in the deltas, what the conditions are. But Alex Fretwell really not comfortable out there, and that's Dean Powell in behind on wet tyres. So we're going to basically get a direct comparison. Oh, well, that's all the story you need to see, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Alex Fretwell making a gamble, and it just hasn't quite paid off for him, unfortunately.
Tristan's on dries. We'll see what he makes of this hairpin that he's about to get to, because I imagine that's going to be quite frightening. Nice and smooth on the brakes, so doesn't snatch a brake, but look at that in comparison. The thing is, though, with those wet tyres already doing about 25 minutes of the race, as soon as it suddenly dries up, they are going to melt. They are going to completely melt. So I think they're trying to be ahead of the curve, which is a good shout, but I think they've just done it a little bit too early. Whoa, Fraser sideways round turn 1. He's really pushing here to stay in front of Bobby Trundley. Bobby's doing a great job in this race, though. I'd hate to see him overdo it here by pushing too hard when he doesn't need to. How many times have we both seen that before in multi-class racing, Ed, where a driver has gone too hard and just overdone it based on, well, a need to, I don't know, prove a point maybe? Not sure.
I can't imagine that being Bobby Trundley's game. I can't see Bobby Trundley being that sort of driver where he wants to prove a point and try and get, I don't know, one over on an elite driver. I think he's going to be very smart about this and realises that he's in a perfect position for a championship, isn't he? He's got Stephen Donnelly with, well, several cars between himself and Bobby. You've got Chris Jennings, Victor Van Zeist, all up there with Stephen, going to be fighting with each other, you would imagine, in the coming laps. So for now, it seems quite comfortable for Bobby Trundley. If he can just carry on, stay with the likes of Fraser Smith and Luke Van Gortel as the track is drying, use them to essentially find out the proper lines on a drying circuit. As Alex Fretwell struggling again, just putting the power down onto the curb on the exit, which is so slippery, and pitches him round into a spin. Wasn't a high impact spin, so the car might be fine, but it's not obviously optimal.
Yeah, I think I mean, the fact of the matter is it's just too early. Just too early. There's not really going to be a big window for these drivers to change tyres. I think it's just going to be down to one of them coming in, and then the rest of the field will say, yeah, you know what, all right. And then everyone will come in at the same time as Hodgson, a little bit sideways there, but he's fighting elite drivers here. He's got Kevin Daniels and Thomas Pugh in front of him. He doesn't need to really battle these guys at this stage. I think a lot of these lot will change onto dry tyres when we get to the halfway point. I think, excuse me, that's when it's going to come. Sorry.
There we go. There's the frog finding its way out of Chaz's throat
Goodness
there.
me, sorry.
As we have Thomas Pugh and Chris Jennings for Axis Sim Sports together out on circuit. I think you might see potentially a bit of team play though, as Thomas Pugh is really on a charge, and he's going to try and catch up to Chris, but he'll need to keep the likes of Victor Van Zeist at bay. And Victor actually with a great run out of turn 1, looking into turn 2, but it's covered off brilliantly by Thomas. He's got obviously Kevin Daniels up there as well, GDK Sports driver up there, big fast racing Jason Hodgson as well. So there's plenty of action on this area of the circuit, but I think Thomas Pugh's his pace is going to be enough, I think, to break away from this battle and instead focus on trying to catch up to his teammate, who, to be fair to his teammate, is actually setting his best laps of the race so far. So Chris Jennings is trying to chase down Stephen Donnelly as well for second place in class.
Yeah, and this is another element to the rain as well, is when it's absolutely torrential and it's poured it down and the track is drenched. It's a different era of pace in the race compared to when it's sort of half wet like this, where it's a little bit more slippery and, well, a bit less slippery I should say, but a bit more predictable, you know. I think when it was as wet as it was earlier, there's a lot of patches on the circuit where it's just complete puddles. Here you still will see some of the standing water around the edge of the track. You can see some of the lovely reflections right and left here, but Chris Jennings can see where the dry line is. You can see that lighter tarmac forming now. As long as you stay about there on the wet tyres, you should be alright. It doesn't matter too much if you get out there onto the standing water, and it's only really when you get onto the slicks that that's going to become an issue. Chris Jennings has had an issue with this before though, where he's blinking in and out quite a bit there, Ed, so any drivers that are around him need to be careful of that.
Yes, they will be, and I think we're getting to a point potentially where, I was going to say where we might be getting a crossover. I'm just trying to keep an eye on some of the drivers on the dry tyre and exactly what their lap times are. I think Laurent van der Voorten is the fastest at this moment in time,
ironically,
but his lap times are not really on par with those on the wets. His last lap was a 2:23, about 2:20s for most of the drivers on the dry tyres, whereas drivers in the wets are still consistently in the 2:16s, 2:15s. There's actually a 2:14.5 from Fraser Smith on the last lap, fastest lap of the race so far by any driver. So now he's starting to come into his groove. He struggled a touch earlier, but now it looks like something's awoken in Fraser Smith as the track's dried out. Could have a nice charge to come through ahead of Luke Van Gortel and make it Conehead 1-2.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll be pushing now, and this is the thing as well. He will see that. He'll see that the lap times are falling, and he'll go, you know what, I'm going to have a bit of that. And look at the lead gap, actually. Fraser is now only 4.5 seconds behind our race leader, Will Soper. Now, earlier on, Will was clear of this whole group, and clear of second place, Luke Van Gortel, by about 4.5 seconds. And then clear of Fraser by another nearly 2-3. So, yeah, it's certainly all packed up here as Luke Van Gortel has had a big old slide out of the right-hander. Fraser Smith is going to pounce. He's going to take his opportunity to go through on the left-hand side. They're very close to contact. Luke Van Gortel doesn't give all the room in the world. They've got to be careful of that drying line and the still very wet parts of the circuit. Fraser around the outside. Can't quite get the car turned in as he wants to. Luke Van Gortel's still there. Doesn't leave much room on the left. He's his own worst enemy a little bit here is Luke. Fraser leaves all the room in the world around the outside. Gets the run here. Now Bobby Trundley wants a bit of this. Luke Lucchese in the fight as well. Fantastic front row seat for Matthew Croft in all of this. Luke Lucchese now on the left-hand side for Porsche Quartet heading down towards Sunset. Trundley moves over to the left a little bit. Lucchese tries it round the outside. I think Bobby Trundley is best backing out of this one. Still, they all cling together. How many of them are going to come in for dry tyres, though? That's going to be the next question. Is Bobby Trundley going to come in? No, none of them are going to come in. I was expecting at least one of them in that time round, but still Luke Lucchese is now going to make it 3 wide down the start-finish straight. This can't end well. Come on, boys.
Oh dear, Luke Lucchese is going to be on the wettest part of the circuit, but he's going to then switch over onto the dry line up the inside and able to get the best of the 3 that were all tussling and looking one way then the next. Deary me. Luke Van Gortel trying to find a way through on Luke Lucchese and then almost losing out to Bobby Trundley, who's going to try and angle out for a nice quick exit. She just struggles to put the power down for. And now I think they're starting to calm down a bit now. Hopefully Luke Lucchese up ahead of Luke Van Gortel and Bobby Trundley, trying to set his sights on Fraser Smith, himself after that really fast last lap has just dropped back now from Will Soper, but it is still that Conehead 1-2.
Yeah, Will is now 5.5 seconds ahead, so as you rightly mentioned, that gap has suddenly extended once more, and Will has a little bit of time to breathe for just a moment. We've got some cars in the pit lane. Andrew Fairley, Kaz Brinkhausen, Nick Stubber, they're all in there ready to go. Marcel Breitenbach also coming in the Corvette, so more drivers going out on dry tyres. We could call them drivers. Never thought of that one, but they now make the switch, so we'll have to see how that pays off for them. Thanks once again to the championship sponsors, Kame, GP2 Group and Keenan Eco Energy. We appreciate the support, appreciate you lot, you're all fantastic. Just as I cut away from Victor Van Zeist, just to make sure that I'd spared him his blushes, but then I thought, you know what, show it. Anyway, Fraser Smith, he's going to be watching his mirrors here for Luke Lucchese, but to be honest with you, Ed, he doesn't need to really worry that much, does he? Luke is, sure, always a championship contender, but he's not that close to Fraser at the minute that just one position behind him in a race like this will completely change the course of the season.
It can do, and it might do, you know. We can never really predict what's going to happen from one moment to the next in this brilliant championship season that we've been treated to. I definitely think Fraser Smith is potentially a pick for one of the favourites for the title, but Luke Lucchese, he's not going to give this up without a fight, and I think the circuit's definitely dry now because Luke Lucchese is first into the 213s as he crosses the line, a full second faster than race leader Will Soper. Luke Van Gortel and John Breitenbach into the pits, but are they going to stick with the wets or gamble onto the dries? Ideally, you want to give it maybe another couple of laps, but the fuel might not be lasting that long.
No, absolutely not. And as Ben Chalcraft has rightly pointed out, 2 minutes 15 now on the dries. So, yeah, the times are certainly coming down. And there is not much in it now. It's only going to be getting quicker and quicker. Here's Laurens van der Wouter. And, I mean, he was flying through shot very, very, very quickly then. The LS Racing Porsche looking really good at this stage. And you can just see the car just looks a lot more stable, doesn't it? It looks like he's able to push it. Careful of that wet curb, though. You could hear the rev spike there. It's one thing that I love about iRacing. Again, I always commend iRacing on their wet weather, but it's the way that they've made it so that the dry line really is dynamic. Only the parts of the circuit where the cars have actually been will get temperature through it, will get affected. He's absolutely on the edge of grit round there. That was floating like mad. That
is scary stuff, but he's able to hang on. Credit to him. Dean Powell now into the pits. I think we are hitting that crossover point, as it was rightly mentioned in the chat. The 2 minute 15s now coming through. That is essentially the crossover point to the wet and dry runners are now basically doing the exact same lap times. I think the wet drivers are slightly faster, but it won't be that case for much longer, I would imagine. Tristan Dinner-Brager actually fastest out on circuit on the dry tyre. That was a 2 minute 12.
Wow. And he changed to them on lap 9. So he was actually the first driver to change onto dries. He was in the pits on lap 9. That's remarkable. I don't know if he'll be able to even go to the end, though. That's the thing. We'll have to see. They do often do one-stops in this series, but
the front runners all in the pits, Chaz.
Yeah, they are, except for Fraser Smith.
Fraser's really been able to save and make it work, or he's going to at least hope that he's going to be able to sort of overcut, whereas everyone else undercutting onto the dries. Let's not forget, though, their dry tyres are going to be stone cold on a sort of it's not going to be a dry track. It's certainly going to be wet and a bit cooler. Not quite the optimal track temperatures to get some heat into them, so they might struggle for this lap. And that's, I think, the logic as to why Fraser Smith is going a lap longer to try and get some track position.
Same with Thomas Pugh, same with Matteo Carbonari as well. Chris Jennings is still out on the circuit, so too Jason Hodgson. So some of these guys taking a bit of a risk here and there to stay out as long as they can on the circuit. Like Ed said, it's probably down to track position. Just to stick with these wets as long as they can, just to be sure of the changeover, I suppose. Kevin Daniels just on a 2:09.0 on that previous lap. That's 3 seconds quicker than what we already considered to be rapid by Tristan Dinnebrega. Kevin Daniels absolutely flying now. We'll keep our eye out for any more fastest laps. Andrew Fairley just went off the road at turn 1 but came back on. But 2:09.24 by Kevin Daniels, not 2:09.0. Still, not that those 0.2 of a second make much difference. It's still rapid. Eric Verlet off the road here, Ed. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. How did you not hit something?
I thought he was going straight into the wall there, but credit to him, he was able to get up and run.
Not the most savoury.
The rejoin.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of space to work with there, and I think the drivers can see you coming from a long way off, which is the reason why he was able to get it done around as quickly as he did. Fraser Smith still not into the pits yet. Where is he out on circuit? Well, as I say that, now he's come into the pits. I imagine Thomas Pugh, Carbonari, Chris Jennings will all be following him in.
Just crawling down the pit lane is so slow. 71 kilometres an hour here at Sebring. Into his box. Now, one of the interesting things is there's still water in the pit boxes, and as you've seen there, Fraser has been caught out by it. He goes a little bit deep, has to reverse for a second. Now, that didn't look like a lot, but that will cost a lot of time in the long run. Here's Will Soper in the wall at the final corner. That was a side-on hit as well. That can cause all sorts of damage. And you've got to be really careful with moments like that.
Rear.
Yeah.
Left rear certainly taken a bit of a beating. Looks to be fine though as he's up and running now. And Fraser Smith, actually the overcut did not work out in his favour whatsoever because he's dropped back so many places. I don't think all of that can be just attributed to overshooting his pit box.
No.
That's just a real misjudgment, I think, of the crossover period. Luke Van Gortel, his lap time last time around, 2 minutes 6.
2 minutes 6.9. Jason Hodgson is still out there on the wets. He's trying some hero strategy here to stay out as long as possible. I think he wants just a bit of airtime. It's one of his many home races this season, but he's certainly not in a position right now that is favourable. He's leading the race outright as well. If you look at the overall standings, Jason Hodgson is top. He's one of only 3 drivers that are still on wets. Kenyon is still on wets for some reason out there. He's struggling around in the Lamborghini. He'll be into the pits as of right now. I think they've just tried to make him last as long as possible. Malcolm Coates, rage against the game. He'll be raging against the rain at the moment as well. But wow, interesting race this so far with these conditions. But that's why we love it here on iRacing. It makes us guess and it makes the drivers guess. And that switch over in the rain is always mighty exciting. We look here at Jean Breitenbach. He's ahead of Yannis Albert and Ryan Ottens, 3 drivers that we've been commentating on since day 1, since we arrived in the Evolution Sim Racing GT3 Championship here on Chaz Draycott Media. Luke Van Gortel is really flying though. 2:06 is just crazy pace. He's certainly got the car dialed in. He knows what he's doing with it now, but look at that light grey line that is drying on the circuit there. Such an obvious place where you want to remain on those dry tyres.
Yeah, it's near enough just being a neon sign, isn't it? Saying, stay here, please. Do not deviate from this line, otherwise you're in for a bad time. Luke Van Gortel here. You just see treaded slightly into the wet area of the circuit, and that nearly sent him round as currently overall race leader is Jason Hodgson, but he's yet to pit Will Soper, the fastest lap of the race by quite some margin. As I say that, actually, Luke Van Gortel has just gone even faster. Yeah,
2:05.1 last time round, even with that slide out of the final corner. Epic stuff from Luke Van Gortel. He was off the road at turn 1 though just then. He had a big old moment. Luke King is way off the road as well. I think some of them they've got confidence around the track in most places, but they're just losing a bit of confidence in the first and last corners, because it seems to be, well, it's the lumpiest part of the track, obviously being the old bit of the airfield, so it's really hard to stick to it. Wyborn does the fastest lap in the Pro class. He's still 49 seconds off the class leader, though. Matt Hoyland is in the DXT Solar Mustang. He's trying to get everything out of that car that he can right now, and he's not quite having it all go his own way. In 5th place, though, he'll be pretty chuffed with that. God, it's an absolute tank, isn't it, that Mustang? Especially when they've got the IMSA stickers on it as well, and the Michelin's on with the big tyre right in. It looks awesome. Yanis Albert in the RDSA Esports NSX. Brian Otten's right up behind him, working hard to try and get by, but God, it's so just crazy different, isn't it? Different conditions to how we saw this race at the very start, Ed.
Ryan Otten's just looking at who's quickest out on circuit on these dry tyres, and it appears to be Luke Van Gort with some great pace, but Ryan Otten's, now that he's got a dry track behind the wheel of the Corvette, it really seems to be going. But it's both the Corvette and the NSX have both been sort of together, haven't they? Both Ryan Ottens and Yanis Albert have kind of been having the race almost together, haven't they? They've been working almost in tandem. It's them against the world in terms of Porsches, and well, the other manufacturers, is we have Jason Hodgson now into the pits from Big Fast Racing. He will give up the lead of the Pro class to Bobby Trundley. Cortinus Motorsports continuing to lead that class. Stephen Donnelly as well, just keep an eye on his lap times. He's still not quite up to pace with Bobby in the lead. Victor Van Zeist, he's also lapping at about the same pace as Stephen Donnelly. So there's no battles appearing, at least for the top 3 positions in the Pro class. Whereas at the moment, we've got a battle for 3rd emerging between Luke Lucchese and Luke Van Gortel. And Van Gortel has been flying, hasn't he, all race long? Hoyland, though, with the fastest lap of the race, 2 minute 4.
2 minute 4.02, although Otten's last time did a 2:03.8, but it didn't count because of his off track that invalidated it. So yeah, the time's now into the 2:04s, 2:03s. Christopher Steinen did a 2:03.8 last time round as well in the Mustang, so he's on the money and on the pace. It's interesting to see how quickly some of the drivers do come back into the pace, isn't it, when it dries out. It's not only just down to if you are on tyre equal fast, you know, it's not just down to the compound. It's about how the driver adapts to a drying circuit and how quickly they gain their confidence back in the amount of grip that is on the tarmac before them. Will Soper is the outright leader of the race. Do not believe the fact that the pros and the elites have swapped around. Well, Soper's not got a huge advantage over Lucchese and Van Gortel, has he? Considering that we're 45 minutes into this race in just a second's time, these guys only separated by 2.5 seconds.
Looking good for Luke Van Gortel and Luke Lucchese in terms of their pace. At least Luke Van Gortel's pace relative to the cars around him. He's quickest out on circuit, and with the race leader only 2.5 seconds up the road, 14 minutes, basically 15 minutes remaining in the race. That is pace that would get him into the lead of the race, but you need to get some overtakes done in the midst of that, and well, that's going to be the next challenge for Luke, because he's actually struggling to contend with turn 1, and yeah, that is a lot of his hard work done earlier, now undone in the space of 1 corner.
That was a very, very wide run, wasn't it? But that's the thing. You just get onto a bit of the marbles, onto a bit of a wet patch on the edge of the circuit there, and away you go. See you later. We'll catch you at Daytona. Completely gone. And there, look, Thomas Pugh's just done the same. Pugh just had a really, really big moment there. Look at that. He's around the outside. He's got the Mustang of Matt Hoyland on his right. God, that's a good symphony. But look, as soon as you're off that dry line, no grip. No grip.
Ooh, and that wall is just approaching all of quicker, isn't it? And Thomas Pugh, he can't really do anything to stop the contact that was basically inevitable as soon as he got onto that wet line on the dry tyres. Now up and running though, with minimal damage, thankfully. It was one of the softer barriers that racing have, so it's no real harm done, thankfully.
No, absolutely not. We look here at Yanis Albert in the NSX. 6 places gained for him. looking at some of the biggest movers in the field, actually, Matt Hoyland is the biggest mover in the field with 12 places gained. Jack Wyborn just up the road has gained 11. Kaz Brinkhausen has also gained 11. So too has Robert Bakker in the holographic Mercedes. And Andrew Fairley as well in the Mustang. We're not seeing much of Andrew like we did at Road America, but he's been chipping away at positions here, Ed. And he's put on a fantastic performance. Really well done.
He is. He's having a really good race, Andrew Fairley. Contrary to a lot of the rest of the field in the other cars that are not the Porsche, he's having a real good time in the wet. And look at this, trying to find a move up the inside. Oh, we just cut away to see an incident with Danny Lee. Oof. And that was a heavier hit, and that's broken the left rear, I think, and that's race over.
Unbelievable. Danny Lee really not having a good time in the wet. Andrew Fairley, as Ed predicted, getting past Kevin Daniels' Porsche. He's absolutely on it here, and that's for class position as well, so that's important for Andrew to get him some extra championship points in the glorious ADX Racing Esports livery. Now his teammate, I'm afraid, is not having such a good time. Matteo Carbonari is sat in the pit lane. There's a few of them: Nick Stubber, Daniel Lee, Marcel Breitenbach, Eric Valet, Glenn Andre Christensen, all in the pits. Pugh, Hodgson and Brinkhausen. Sounds like a comedy trio. They're all together on circuit as Hodgson decides to try and widen the final corner. A few people have tried that tonight. It hasn't worked out for them. Kevin Daniels came to a stop, and he's off at turn 1, and I think that may be the end of his race. Just as we cut away again, typically. That's wet there.
Just as we look away. Oh, dear. Yeah.
God, look at that. It just skates all the way. Look how far that car slid. This isn't even in slow-mo.
Just...
Wow. That's how wet it is out there.
It's again the brutal realism that iRacing offers with its wet racing. People are saying, oh, it's too hard, but they were crying out for the wet weather for how long, and now they've got it.
You wanted this.
What did you want? You've got it. Now deal with your consequences of your actions.
Yeah, iRacing is sitting back in the chair with smoking a pipe going, yeah, it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
What did you think? Right then, Will Soper and Luke Lucchese. And we were saying earlier about the fact we've not seen Luke have many sort of top-end performances so far this season. You know, he's previous multiple champion of this series, but he's not been breaking the timing screens this season round. It's been incredibly tough competition, but right now, Luke, I'll stop slating you, Luke, I'm so sorry. Now he's in second place, and he is catching up with Will Soper. He was 0.4 of a second quicker on that last lap, 2:02.5, fastest lap of the race. And Lucchese is on a mission now, and this is the Luke Lucchese that we know and love, isn't it, Ed? This is fierce.
Really strong stuff as Luke Lucchese. He's been reeling in Will Soper lap upon lap. We thought actually it was going to be Luke Van Gortel with his pace able to close back in, but I just think that he's maybe not quite got the consistency in these ever-changing conditions that Luke Lucchese has got and has demonstrated over the course of, well, the time of us at least broadcasting the Evolution Sim Racing GT3 challenge here on the channel. He has been a very consistent top runner. I think this is really his strength now coming through as he's chasing down and putting Will Soper under some substantial pressure, it's fair to say. He's had a pretty clear race out ahead for, well, nearly the entire thing, hasn't he, Chaz? But up until now, he's got some real tough work to do to try and keep Luke Lucchese behind him. Yeah,
multiple champion Luke Lucchese, I should say. He's definitely going to be one of the last drivers you want in your rearview mirror. Look at all the spray there around the curbs, the little puddles and stuff being kicked up. It's great to see that we've got that level of detail here. Right now, though, Will Soper is going to be under pressure. I wonder whether he's got any damage on that left rear, you know, from that little tap with the wall earlier on. The guys are pushing like mad, though. They're using so much of the road, kissing the curbs this way and that way. They really are working hard to get the most out of this lap that they can. I think Ryan Ottens has just had some sort of issue. He's had a bit of a spin. John Breitenbach and Bobby Trundley have gone through. There they are. Bobby doing a great old job at the minute. Still leading his class. Bit of damage on the front left, but he's getting away with it. Here's a trio of cars. Victor Van Zeist, Jack Wyborn and Matt Hoyland. 3rd, 4th and 5th in the pro class they're fighting over. So this is all for some big championship points here, Ed. This could get spicy.
Here we go. Matt Hoyland, he's going to try and focus on the exit, getting on the power as early as he dares in these horrible conditions. And here we go.
No.
He's got a nice little run. What's happened here with Luke Lucchese? He's dropped all the way back down into 5th. Don't tell me it was another slide, just running too wide through turn 1.
He's gone for the move.
Oh, he's forced around the outside.
He's going to get onto the wet line here, isn't he? Surely. He's on the outside of Will. All the way around. It's going. Oh, he's going to stay out of a wall, though. Oh, he did so well. So well to stay out of a wall. Rejoins, but obviously has to get back up to speed, which is why he loses ground then to Fraser Smith and Yanis Albert. That gives Will Soper a bit of freedom for a minute. We do need to then go back and see what happened with this lot, because the guys were having a battle, to say the least, weren't they?
Yes, they were. They were really having a tussle. Matt Hoyland, the XT Solar, I think is...
Well, Van Zeist is now 3 seconds back.
Yeah.
Something's gone on here. Something has gone on. Where was all this kicking off then? So was this towards the end of the previous lap? Yes. There goes Jack Wyborn. Jack Wyborn sideways. I don't know whether he got hit by Jason Hodgson or what. Oh no, he hit the side of it. Was Victor Van Zeist, wasn't it? Sorry. Jason Hodgson was the next car that benefited from their incident. Victor Van Zeist and Jack Wyborn coming together. It's not a favourable rejoin by Jack, but we've seen worse. And now Matt Hoyland, well, he's on for a podium in his class. But Bobby Trundley, well, he's definitely not trundling, is he? He's absolutely decimated the field in this one. Half a minute clear.
Yeah, that is some strong stuff. Some really, really strong stuff there. Bobby Trundley. He's definitely not trundled along, has he?
Definitely not.
He's been right up there at the sharp end, and this is going to be a very impressive performance if he's able to carry it on.
Yanis Albert now in front of Luke Lucchese. Luke has gained just 1 place from where he started, but Yanis has now gained 7. Another very Yanis-esque race. He's always been a consistent front runner. We've seen him do fantastic things multiple times. Hoyland, by the way, Matt Hoyland has just moved into 2nd place in Pro. He's just got past Stephen Donnelly out of the final corner. Stephen struggling, gets on the wet line, and look at that, Hoyland just drives past. See you later, son. He's there somewhere. There he is. See you later, sunshine. Now Hoyland's got to try and hold on to it. And he looks like he is doing, because he's 1.2 seconds ahead of Stephen Donnelly, who's now under pressure from Kaz Brinkhausen. Another Mustang goes by.
Yeah, I mean, this is all kicking off really now, isn't it, Chaz? Right at the tail end of the race. It always tends to, but now I think the drivers have really gotten to grips with, well, knowing where the grip is and where it isn't, and they're using that to great effect. Yanis Albert, he's had a great race as well, actually. We've seen him jump up into 4th now, Chaz, in the Lamborghini. Not the favourite car in the wet, but managing that transition. Not the Lamborghini, sorry, I'm used to seeing him in the Lamborghini. He is in the NSX. The transition from the wet to dry has really helped out Yanis, and he's properly able to flex the muscles of that NSX in its sort of more favourable condition.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like there are definitely set conditions that help this car, and you know, cars that benefit in some conditions, cars that benefit in others. And the NSX, I don't know. I haven't clapped eyes on where it's best yet, as Fraser Smith goes 2:01.5, does the fastest lap of the race by a long shot. But yeah, Yanis running really, really well now. As mentioned, 7 places gained, so moving ahead of Luke Lucchese, and it's not like Luke has got back past him or is even putting him under more pressure.
Yeah, that's what it seems to be. Yanis Albert, just nice and steady, I think, is the more important thing, is just in these races, keeping yourself out of trouble, going at a very regular pace, and I guess adjusting over the course of the race, trying things out, but you know, not too much in terms of hunting where the grip is, because we've already seen drivers fall foul of that. But now he has to really hang on for the next 3.5 minutes. He's not really going to be able to close up for the podium. Fraser Smith is just too far ahead. And, well, with Luke Lucchese bearing down his neck, while they are teammates, I'm not sure if we're going to see any team orders between the pair of them. So he can't afford to look too much in his rearview mirror and defend too hard, because he'll quite easily find himself off the favourable line. Meanwhile, Fraser Smith, what is that lap time? 2:01.15.
Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. He's absolutely on it. And he's going to be hoping to take the lead off Luke Van Gortel and Will Soper, because they're going to be battling over it in just a moment. There's going to be 2 laps to go, yeah, because we're not going to completely fill the timer here. It's not going to be 40 seconds till the end of the lap. But look, there's the top 5 in this race. After nearly an hour of racing, they are still this close together. Will Soper, he's certainly under pressure now from Luke Van Gortel. It'd be great, wouldn't it, for Luke Van Gortel to take a victory after everything that I'd said earlier on about him not converting. He's now all over the back of Will and trying to do his very best to take this victory. Will has been absolutely supreme, though. It's just in this later stage in the race, it's not quite worked. Lucchese has now got ahead of Yannis Albert.
Here we go.
And they're battling as well, but Luke Van Gortel is going to try it. He's going to look down the inside. We've seen him be a bit too overcommitted sometimes, though, and we don't want to see him do that this time. You can't rush a move like this. You've got to take it easy.
Fraser Smith's going to be rubbing his hands here as he can see the two up ahead starting to battle and slow each other down right into his clutches. We have this lap and one more, which is going to be brilliant for Fraser Smith. He knows it's not do or die. All of these drivers know they've got a little bit more time still to go, but they're trying everything. Fraser Smith, he senses a gap up the inside. It's closed off a little bit late by Luke Van Gortel. And as they race their way out of the hairpin, oh, this is getting dicey, Chaz.
It really is. Really getting dicey now. Now, this is the thing. Fraser, you just saw him there. Look to the inside. Just duck out to the right. You've got to be careful of where you do that on the circuit, just in case there is a little bit of standing water, a wet part of the track. There's been drama in the pro class as well. Donnelly has lost time and has lost a few positions. He's dropping down. Fraser Smith now, he's a bit all over the place at the moment here. One of his best fans, Benjamin Bartley, in the chat saying nice and steady, Fraser. I don't know how well he knows Fraser, but he doesn't do nice and steady. He is. There you go. There's the proof. He's trying to put too much pressure on. He doesn't need to do it. He was all over the back of him too much, and there's actually been drama for Will Soper as well. All of a sudden, the Conehead drivers both sort of implode, and now Luke Van Gortel runs wide, and Will Soper goes through. Fraser Smith has lost even more ground now. Yannis Albert and Luke Lucchese have gone through. We've said it before. Fraser Smith is his own worst enemy.
Yeah, Fraser Smith, again, like you say, Chaz, how many times have we had it where the only driver that can stop Fraser Smith is Fraser Smith?
We've said the same about Adam Watson.
We've said the same about a few other drivers as well, haven't we? Yes. He is not the only driver, and it's the mark of some of the best in the business, to be honest, isn't it, Chaz? That they're so quick that they are the only force that can really stop them. But this is going to be great for Will Soper. He's got a bit more breathing space to Luke Van Gortel in behind. Bobby Trundley carries on in the lead and has got a nice comfortable gap to the pack in behind him. So it looks like a foregone conclusion there. Meanwhile, close battles, I think, between Thomas Pugh and Vic Van Zijs. That looks like a battle that could be emerging or coming into pass.
I was just going to say, though, Luke Van Gortel, I'm not sure how much he's read the rule book, but you can get told off for flashing your lights, as far as I know. And he's been doing quite a bit of that at the start of this lap. I'm not trying to get him in trouble, but he'll get himself in trouble if he continues to do that. So he needs to be careful here not to overdo that. Maybe once or twice on a lap, yeah. I don't think I'd mind that too much if someone was trying to distract me into one braking zone. But after doing it a few times, yeah. Now, there's only half a lap of this race left to go now. Will Soper could be on the brink of a fantastic, and no disrespect, Will, unexpected second race win in a row in the Evolution Sim Racing GT3 Championship here. At the same time, though, Luke Van Gortel could be on for his first race win of the season if he just keeps it tidy in this final sector. It's all to play for now, with just one very wet and dry sector left to go here at Sebring. This has turned out to be an absolute belter of a race. I know a few drivers weren't looking forward to this one. We certainly were, and you've seen why. Into the slipstream now. Luke Van Gortel gets a really good run down towards Sunset. Almost now turns on the smoke screen, does Will Soper. It's like the red arrows down towards Sunset. Van Gortel's going to have to go out to the left, but he needs to be careful of where that dry line is and where the wet line is. He's broken later than Will Soper. He's around the outside of Will Soper. Now can he cut back down the inside of Will Soper? They're going to be side by side to the line. Luke Van Gortel around the outside keeps it absolutely pinned. It's going to be a dead heat, but I think Van Gortel's going to do it. He is. He takes the win in round 6. What a move. Luke Van Gortel wins it at the flag here at Sebring. What a race that was. What a drive. Incredible.
Absolutely astonishing. What were you just saying earlier, Chaz, about him struggling to convert? Well, he's done exactly that right at the end when it counts. Heart has to bleed, though, doesn't it, for Will Soper? All of that hard work leading for, well, 99% of that race. And
Incredible.
Then right at the end, that's when the points are scored, and unfortunately, he won't be getting the maximum. Those 100 points instead going the way of Luke Van Gortel. But Chaz, you were absolutely bang on with what you were saying earlier. That was finally for Luke Van Gortel getting that conversion.
Bit of retribution there. Fantastic result for Matt Hoyland, by the way. 15 places gained. There was 18 places gained for Chaz Brinkhausen. Victor Van Zeist as well gets himself a podium at the end of that. But you have to take your hat off to his teammate Luke Van Gortel for that move at the end. Perfectly executed. Big hats off to Will Soper as well, because he kept so much respect for his other competitor there alongside him, gave loads of room, kept it fair, and that is exactly what you want to see. We have both seen a lot of race finishes like that where a driver goes for a move, you know, you see it and you think, oh, don't be a hero, and the other drivers think that as well, and they sort of react to it in a bad way, and they almost say no, they almost guarantee it's not going to work and put them in the fence. We don't like stuff like that. It's like when people run into each other across the line at Daytona. Like, what are you doing? That was perfect, though, between Luke Van Gortel and Will Soper. We'll get the final gap at the end in just a moment's time, but that is absolutely one of the highlights. What a great race this has been here at Sebring with these mixed conditions. Unfortunately, damage there for Malcolm Coates means he's going to go into the pit lane to finish his race, and that is going to be that, I believe. Once he crosses the line, then that is going to be it. But, wow. Incredible, incredible stuff. Bobby Trundley takes the win in the pro class. But first off, we'll go over the elite class standings after that one, or at least the elite results, let's say. And it's Luke Van Gortel, 63 thousandths of a second over Will Soper. Yannis Albert was in third. Very well done to him. Another third place for him, though. That is now, what, 5 in the last 5 meetings? Then it's Luke Lucchese ahead of Fraser Smith. Fraser will be gutted after losing out with just a lap to go. Jean Breitenbach ahead of Ryan Ottens. Good race by them. And Luke King as well. Andrew Fairley, fantastic drive. 12 places gained. Chaz Brinkhausen, 18 places gained ahead of Thomas Pugh's Lamborghini. Dean Powell and Robert Backer were the last drivers on the lead lap. The others that didn't finish, Tristan Dinabrega, he was one of the drivers that was really flying after going on to the dries. He was 3 laps down. Chris Versteinen and Kevin Daniels, Matteo Carbonari and Daniel Lee also did not finish the race. Ed, why don't you take it away with the pro standings, mate?
Here we go. And, well, it was a nice measured race from Bobby Trundley. Didn't have too much to worry about. It was really comfortable from start to finish ahead of Matt Hoyland there in the DXT Solar 4, coming through for a brilliant second place. Up 15 places over the whole race. That was really good from him. Victor Van Zeist there in third, rounding out the podium. Jack Wyborn finishing in fourth. Stephen Donnelly fifth, ahead of Jason Hodgson. And Alex Fretwell, after all we saw of him struggling on those dry tyres, to come back through for his 7th overall is not bad going whatsoever. Chris Jennings there in 8th place, ahead of Alexander Drillby in 9th. And Malcolm Coates rounding out your top 10. Martin Kenyon, we saw him struggling in the Lamborghini, but he was able to come through for an 11th place, ahead of Lawrence van der Water. Marcel Breitenbach finishes 13th ahead of Matthew Croft. Eric Valet finishes 4 laps down, then 8 laps down, 19 laps, 20 laps down, not scoring any points. Nick Stuber, Glenn Andrew Christensen, and Lawrence Dedapper.
Don't think there's any others. No others on the sheet. But wow, absolutely remarkable race that was. We're going to go back in time. It might suddenly get very wet. Wait for it. There it is. Wow, it's very wet at this stage of the race, but we are now going to go and crack on with some interviews, speak to some drivers. I can tell you there is no less than 11 drivers in the interview waiting room. But the driver that I want to speak to most is one that, I'm not going to lie, I'll tell him now. I was saying, oh no, why are we looking at Tristan? We don't want to look at Tristan. We want to look at our race winner, Luke van Gortel. Luke, welcome to the commentary box, mate. I was saying a lot earlier about your great qualifying performances and then not able to convert them. I must have done like the opposite of a commentator's curse. You've done it, mate. You must be buzzing.
Yeah, I have a lot of bad luck, but this one paid off.
Absolutely. And what were your thoughts going into the final stages of the race there? Because obviously it wasn't just about chasing Will down, it was a case of holding off Fraser as well. That's not easy to do.
No. First they put me in like a sandwich.
Yeah.
After that, I saw one. I think he braked a little bit too late, so he missed his apex. And after that, for the very last corner, it was only hoping.
I was going to say, it was just one of those where put it in on the brakes, close your eyes and pray, and then come out the other side. But it gave us one of the most exciting finishes that we've seen in the Championship's history. You must be very confident now for the rest of the season. Hopefully all that bad luck's gone.
I hope so. I still have to make some points good.
Absolutely, but it's been an interesting season so far, hasn't it? The calendar's been quite mixed. Obviously, the conditions are mixed as well, and it looks like you've been having some great fights with a lot of these guys.
Yeah, I like to. The new season. There are a lot of new names, but I like to battle them.
Well, it's been great to watch you already so far this season, Luke. That was absolutely epic, mate. Is there anyone you'd like to give a quick shout out to before you go?
Yeah, I want to thank the MEAK boys for the great pedals they give me, and it's a very nice team to sit in.
Well, congratulations, Luke. Very, very well done. Go and enjoy the moment, and we'll hopefully speak to you again soon. Cheers.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Well, there you go. Luke van Gortel, his first win of the season, Ed, and boy, he deserved it with that one, didn't he? That wasn't just a sort of first win where you drive away at the front of the pack. He worked so hard for that, and he got it. That was epic.
It was brilliant. It was so good to hear from Luke, wasn't it? Just, again, finally able to get it over the line and only just at the line. It's really, really difficult for Will Soper to swallow that one after all of the hard work he puts in. But credit to him, he still managed to get some solid points. But Luke van Gortel, story of the night, it has to be him, doesn't it, Chaz?
Definitely, and if it wasn't him, it'd be this guy, because Bobby Trundley not only won his class, but he did it by over half a minute in the pro class. Certainly made it work tonight. Bobby, congratulations. You must be over the moon with that, because in these conditions, anything can happen, can't it? And you certainly made sure that nothing happened to you.
It was better than Long Beach, that's for certain.
Yes, 100%.
We managed to get the setup working pretty well, especially in changeable conditions. Obviously, I haven't got the outright pace against all the elite guys, but to be on their coattails throughout, I did try and have some cheeky moves and looks, but obviously they weren't going to work out. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it. It's great to be mixing it up the front and bringing home a great result for the team.
Definitely, and you certainly did that. I mean, it's, Ed and I love it when some of the pro drivers mix it in with some of the elite lot as well. It's always good fun, and you do wonder, are they going to hold back and wait, or are they going to poke their nose up the inside? We saw a bit of both from you, which kept it spicy. How's your season been so far? Have you felt like you've enjoyed it so far? Are you liking being amongst these boys?
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Donington, I enjoyed Donny round 1, round 2 as well, before obviously the takeout, and Zolder was really good fun. Changeable conditions for me seem to be mainly my strong point, especially in the sim side of racing and stuff.
Yeah.
But then obviously I didn't do VIR because I had other commitments. But then obviously Long Beach, I like Long Beach. It's just had a fluke on race 1. Race 2 was all right. Yeah, the racing's been really good and fair. I absolutely enjoyed it, and soon to head back out on the real circuit. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
I was going to say, are you looking forward to another season out in the real car as well?
Yeah. It's not the McLaren, unfortunately, but going to be racing the 214 Brit car this year with Asher, my teammate. We're making a pairing of autistic pairing with Team Brit. So yeah, it's going to be a great year ahead.
Well, we wish you all the best, Bobby, if we don't speak to you before then, mate, and it's great to have a chat with you. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout-out to before you go?
Oh, I'd like to give a shout out to my girlfriend Kara. She's been supporting in the YouTube channel in the
She
chat.
has indeed. We can see her in there now.
And also my mum and dad and Max Spoon and all the Quartermass team. They've done a really good job throughout. So yeah, thank you very much, guys.
Great to have you, Bobby. Thanks very much for joining us. We'll see you soon.
See you soon. Take
Cheers.
care.
There we go then, Bobby Trundley. Fantastic drive from him though, Ed. And we've seen real drivers do well in mixed conditions before, but the experience in real world racing seems to translate well into the sim, but at the same time there are drivers that in the sim translate it very well into the real world stuff as well with changeable conditions like this. It certainly seems to be a bit of a proving ground for the ones that can understand it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think one of the best things about sim racing is that you have easy access to sort of change the conditions and suit them to different scenarios. You can't really do that in the real world. You're at the mercy of whatever the conditions happen to be on the day that you go racing, whereas in iRacing and other racing simulators, you're able to tweak and create different scenarios that allow you to really hone your skills in the best possible way. There is nothing better than practice and repetition, and while obviously going into the real world and doing it would be the best. In iRacing, you've got that versatility, and I think that was what really helps out the drivers, is just the consistency and being able to try different things and then keep repeating in a much more accessible format.
Absolutely, hit the nail on the head, and this guy hit the nail on the head with tonight's performance. Matt Hoyland must be very, very happy. 15 places gained, Matt. Second biggest mover in the field tonight. Only Chaz Draycott surpassed you in that regard, but biggest mover in the pro class, up to second. You must have been quite surprised to do that in the Mustang, surely.
Shocked, I think is a word. That what has it been, about 15 years since I last had a good result, and it just comes out of nowhere. Like, to be honest, it was pretty much handed to me. I existed, and other people had incidents. If I'd have known that Kaz was the bigger mover, I wouldn't have let him go one lap from the end. I let him by it because I didn't want the pressure. But yeah, really pleased with it. It was a really, really tricky thing to drive in the wet. I still. Of all the cars, I still cannot get the Mustang nailed in wet conditions. I can't understand it, but I managed to survive. Got it on dry. It was superb as soon as I got slicks on. Thankfully, I were able to be quick enough and just keep it on road and, yeah, come away with what I think is my best result of the season.
Well, that's going to be the advice if I give anybody about, never mind, when I'm commentating saying keep it on the black stuff, keep it on road. That's what you got to say to everybody.
Exactly.
Keep it on road.
In an accent as well.
Be right. Be right. Well, Andrew Fairley and Chaz Draycott were just ahead of you, both in Mustangs as well. So 12, 18 and 15 places gained for the three of you. The other Mustangs of the night, Dean Powell, Eric Villet, Chris Verstein and Danny Lee. I mean, the bottom three of those all retired from the race. Dean Powell had a tough time. So it seems like it's mixed fortunes in the Mustang, but, how's it treated you for the first 6 meetings, would you say? I mean, you said there, obviously, it's not the easiest thing to get going in the right direction, but it's not been all doom and gloom, has it?
No, definitely not. I think it's one of those cars when it's on, it's really on. When you really gel with it, you are very fast, but when it's not, it's a pig. It's not like the Porsche or maybe even the Ferrari or something like that, where you can sort of do okay.
Yeah.
Even when you're not really feeling it, if you are either one way or the other with it. When I've had good races, they've been really good. When I've had bad races, they've been really bad. So it's all been a learning curve, but it has been a nice change. I've really enjoyed driving it. It's been a challenge, and I'm hoping that it's gonna obviously help me improve in my driving as well.
Well, that's it. It's not just about getting better in one particular car. It develops you as a driver, so you've got different limits to know what to expect from different machines, doesn't it? Where the potential maximum grip out of a car might be and the potential minimum. It's all about adding them to a sort of pin board and like a correlation board of where things might all line up from one car to the next. So yeah, it's good to see that development shining through. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go tonight?
I'll give a shout out to Stephen this evening. He did so well, and then picked up a couple of bits of wheel damage towards the end, and it just was too much for him to manage, so dropped off. I felt bad stealing for a second from him being in the same team, but it is what it is. He drove really well, he just got unlucky, but yeah, shout out to Stephen on this one.
I was going to say, we saw you go past him and we did wonder if there was damage because his pace early on was electric and then it suddenly dropped. But yeah, fair play, mate. But great to speak to you as always, Matt, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Catch you later.
Well, Matt Hoyland wrangling the Mustang to a result at the end of the night. Ed, he worked hard for that, much like everybody else did, but a trying night was an absolute belter and a great bit of entertainment from Luke Van Gortel in particular and Will Soper at the end. A fine, fine race tonight and one of the absolute highlights of the season, I'd say.
It really was. It was so much action everywhere. It's difficult to keep track of all of the battles, all of the different permutations as well with the drivers. Making the switch over from the wet tyres to the dry made it all the more entertaining. And now, like you mentioned at the start of the broadcast, Chaz, it is going to be dry from, well, now until the rest of the season. So we cannot wait to see what is going to be in store for the last run-in before we crown a champion.
Except Mugello.
Except Mugello, sorry.
It's going to rain at Mugello, but still, thanks once again, Ed. It's been a wonderful, wonderful evening of mixed conditions and interesting strategy calls and keeping us two guessing up here in the box. Thanks, as always, to the championship sponsors, Cam8, GP2 Group and Keenan Eco Energy. Thanks, as always, again, to the series organisers as well for having us here at Chaz Draycott Media. Thanks, as ever, for watching, everybody. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we'll see you again in a week's time when we head to round number 7 at Circuit of the Americas. See you in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And look at Jochen Hahn and Antonio Albacete. The two of them go flying through the right-hand side, then the left-hand side. Jochen Hahn around the outside, and Lucas Hahn, no father and son, come together on the exit of turn 1.
And the best thing about this is the fact that it's still a 15-minute sprint race. They're not extended the time of the race. It's still just like, it's going to be, what, 7 laps of Spa Francorchamps?
Yeah. We get to the real nitty-gritty of motorsport. Cranston and Smith are side by side for the title in the very final race of the season as they go back up the hill towards the Schumacher S. Nils Core clips the back at 10, Simon Povey clips the side of Nils Core. They go over the hill and Povey's around.
Oh my god, that's going to definitely be the thumbnail and hit me in the right direction. Thank you so much.
23 cars.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.